Hi, so basically this is gonna be a really practical guide on how you can actually be consistent at doing positive things like exercising, studying, practicing your art, meditating, literally anything. Hi, I'm Laksana, just an average guy trying to be consistent, and one of my biggest achievements in being consistent is that I currently have a 164 days straight morning push-up streak fully documented on my Instagram. You can just check it out. And hey, I wanna say thank you. Thank you for actually caring about your life, because if you actually want to change your life to the better through implementing some positive things consistently, I actually really do appreciate that. So this is April 20th, 2025, and this is going to be day 286 of consistently helping people build consistency. So on today's video, I'm going to be explaining about the concept of rule and how we can actually use the concept of rule in order to help us stay consistent on our day-to-day life. Okay, so basically I'm going to be, explaining the principle first, right? Like the explanation first, and then how can we actually implement the principle. So why rule exists? Why rule exists in society? Why rule exists in, like in our life, right? Basically, I believe the reason is because it has something to do with expectation. Okay. So for example, why there's a rule why you should not punch other people and you will get some punishment if you punch other people. It's simply because you expect, right? You expect people to behave, right? You expect people to behave in a nice way. You do not want people to harm you physically. You expect people to treat you well, and you expect people not to punch you. Okay? And basically, not only that you expect that thing, in a like the society, like if I ask like 100 people about the same question, I pretty much, pretty confident that they are also going to agree that, hey, I do not want to get punched. I expect a peaceful life. I expect that people treat me well. I expect that people do not physically harm me. Okay, so basically, since there's this collective expectation, a rule is being created that, hey, if you punch people, you are going to get the punishment, you are going to go to jail. Okay, so people are not going to punch each other, right? One of the biggest reason is because they know that there's a rule, right? They do not want to get the consequences of punching another people because they know that they are going to go to jail if they punch other people. I mean, like, except in, maybe some self-defense cases, right? Notice that this whole expectancy and rule dynamic creates some sense of consistency. I mean, in a sense that, hey, you can expect that you are not going to see people punch each other on the street pretty consistently, right? You are going to consistently see people, treating each other and not physically harm each other on the street because of this rule and the expectancy from society as a whole, right? So basically, expectation creates rule, right? Collective expectation create rule, and rule creates some sense of consistency. You can expect not to get punched, right? When you're just walking in your, walking in the street. So basically, we are going to be implementing the principle of rule in order to help us to stay consistent in our life. Okay, in order to, stay consistent at exercising, at studying, blah 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 blah. Notice two things. Okay, one is that just like society have some expectation of how life should be, you yourself also have some expectation, right? You personally have some expectation on how, you know you want you expect your life to go in a certain way. For example, you want to be healthy. Okay, you expect your life to be healthy. You expect you to be, the best in your field that you are passionate about, and so on and so on, right? My question is, do you have any role to meet that expectation? Okay, notice that's the first thing. And then moving on to the second thing, right? Notice that there are things that if you just do it, it will help you achieve your expectation. For example, like studying, if you do studying, if you do exercising, and so on and so on. And also, there are things that are opposing to your own expectation. So, for example, if you expect the life, like a fulfilled life, a life full of adventure, and so on and so on. So, you know, things like spending hours and hours every single day on social media is going to be the things that actually are opposing to your expectation of a fulfilling life. I mean, like, it's just mindless scrolling won't bring you fulfillment, okay? My second question here is that, why don't we create rules to do the positive things and stop? Or at least limit the negative things. Okay. So basically, there are two kinds of rule here. One, the active rule, and secondly, the passive rule. Okay. So I'm going to be talking about active rule first. So basically, the active rule is going to be a rule that's going to make you, right? That's going to tell you to do something actively, right? In order to meet your expectation. So for example, let's ask yourself, what kind of life that you actually expect, right? For example, you want to be the best in your field in, mathematics, right? You want to be the best mathematician. Ask yourself, what's the best thing that if you just do it consistently every single day, it's going to make your expectation of being the best mathematician in the world, even closer and closer, right? What's going to achieve? What steps that you need to take consistently in order to fulfill your dream, your expectation, right? So actually, like the answer is pretty clear. It's studying mathematics every single day, right? So what is going to be the manifestation of this active rule, right? What is the manifestation of this active rule? It's going to be, studying mathematics. I'm creating a rule that, hey, I need to study mathematics every single day for at least 30 minutes every single day. That's the rule. Okay. That's one example of an active rule. And then moving on to the passive rule, right? The passive rule is basically a rule that tells you to actively stop doing or at least limit some certain activity in order to meet your expectation. So again, ask yourself, what kind of life that you expect, right? So for example, yeah, you want to be the best mathematician, right? So, and in order to be the best mathematician, you need to spend your time, lots of your time and energy to study mathematics, right? Now ask yourself, what's the biggest obstacle to achieve that expectation, right? Or what's the thing that if you just you consistently stop doing, then you are going to be closer and closer to your expectation. So, for example, you spend so much time scrolling on social media, right? You waste so much time scrolling on social media. Imagine how many hours you can actually spend working on studying mathematics, right? If you just stop scrolling so much, right? And when you can, spend more time on studying mathematics, you are going to be meeting your expectation even closer to become the best mathematician in the world. So what is going to be the manifestation of this role? It's going to be something like, limiting yourself from social media. You can only open social media from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. every single day. So that's the example, right? And the explanation of active role and passive role. And basically the thing that you are going to be doing here is to basically just write down at least, right here, right now, grab a pen and a paper and then basically write down the rule. At least one active role and at least one passive role. Okay. Why do we need to write it down on a paper? Why? Simple. Because we want to make it concrete. We want to read it every single day. Okay. That's the reason. Okay. Now, going to the next part, we are going to be talking about consequences, okay? Because, when we are talking about rules, we are going to be talking about consequences if you break the rule, okay? If you punch people, you are going to go to jail. For example, except again, in some cases of self-defense, maybe. And also, for example, that's one example, right? And also notice that the biggest problem about creating, this kind of rule for yourself in your self-improvement journey, like limiting your social media consumption and so on and so on, the biggest problem here is that you need to be your own judge. You need to be your own executioner, and also you are going to be the one who is getting the consequences. Okay, you are also the one getting the consequences. And from my personal experience, it's actually pretty easy to just create the rule. Stop consuming social media, blah 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 blah. When I'm motivated, right? But 2-3 days later, right, when I'm no longer feeling motivated to change my life, I kind of think like, you know what? I want to open social media. I don't care about the rule. I don't care about the consequences. Maybe like on the rule, I say the consequences. Oh yeah, if I broke the rule, well then I need to, do 200 push-ups, blah 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 blah. Well, the reality here is that when I create this role and consequence thing and I broke it, right, I kind of think like, you know what, I don't want to do the punishment because I'm way too lazy. I don't want to do the punishment. Like anyway, this is the rule that I create for myself. So I don't want to do it. Okay, I'm basically just gonna scroll social media and have no consequences, break the rule because I don't care about the rule anymore. I'm free. Yay! Something like that. Okay. So we do not want this to happen. Okay, we do not want this to happen. So basically, how do we actually solve this problem? Simple. Just ask for the help of our friends, right? In order to, remind us consistently, ask us consistently whether or not we are still consistently sticking to our rule. Okay. Basically, an accountability partner. Okay. Ask them politely. Okay. To make you stay accountable, we are searching for external figure in order to help us stay accountable. So, you know, that's how you actually be consistent at doing something. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you can stay consistent at whatever things that you wanted to be consistent at. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe again. Join our Discord. And also, if you want to support me creating these long form videos, you can support me on Gumroad. And thank you so much. And for today's date, Authenticity Post, today's April 20th, 2025. And Mimzar posted a dream home post last 24 hours, GMT +7. And yeah, this video might be uploaded 1 or 2 days from now or even more because I need to edit it first. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you for watching. Bye.